All right, y'all, so today in this video we're going to talk about my top 10 tools for a bladesmith shop. Some of these are more basic and fairly affordable. Some of these are a little on the pricey side and where I don't think you should skimp when it comes to, buying the right tool. Kind of just for those getting started, if you're looking to start doing this, these are some of the most important tools that you can use in the shop. Obviously, I could have just kept going and going and going and going, but these are my top 10 most basic favorite tools that you should have in your shop. First tool on the list is a cross-peen hammer. A good cross-peen hammer, I think, is the most important hammer you can have in a bladesmith shop. That's because a lot of what we're doing as a bladesmith is taking a narrow piece of steel and making it wider and longer. You can do this with a rounding hammer, you can do this with a straight peen hammer, but to me, this is the most useful one. It also allows you to get into tight spots, like if you're forging a tall chef knife and you want to get in and forge the heel to make it a little more curvy and give it a little more height to upset that area. Having this cross peen can really help get in there. All right, so you've got your hammer picked out. You're also gonna need an anvil because you gotta have something to hit your steel on. So my recommendations for an anvil are get something with a good flat surface, nice wide face if you can get it. Look around though, because there's all sorts of cool old anvils out there that are in pretty darn good shape. Mine, I don't even know much about it, but it's an old French pig anvil. I think it's around 165 pounds and I absolutely love it. So if you're forging, you're gonna need something to hold the steel with. So I recommend getting as many different kinds of tongs as you can. You can buy them, you can learn to make them. Forging tongs is a oddly difficult process. So I would honestly recommend buying some first, but learning to forge tongs is also a really incredible and useful skill. But you can never have too many tongs because the amount of different ways that you're going to want to hold your steel, you're always going to be thinking of like, oh damn, if I just had one that could hold it this way, that'd be great. And even to this day, I've got a ton of tongs and sometimes I'm still like, I wish these did this just a little better, or, so always just, from time to time, grab a new set of tongs. Anywhere from 30 to maybe $100, I don't know. Blacksmith Depot has a bunch of great tongs that you can buy. I think Centaur Forge also has a bunch that are really fairly reasonably priced, and yeah. Of course, you need something to heat up your steel with. So a good forge is gonna go a long way. I use a chili forge, a single burner chili forge. Single burner is enough for me. I personally don't make a ton of Damascus, but I do make things like hammers and chef knives, and that's more than enough for all the stuff that I do. I do make Damascus from time to time, and there are times when I've made some big pieces of Damascus steel where I wished that I had like a double burner or even a triple burner. But for the most part, a single burner does just fine for me. I will say, get at least a 40-pound propane tank. The 20s work, but they freeze up real fast. The next tool that I want to talk to you about is probably one of the most important tools that you can get, and definitely save up, get a really nice one, but that's a variable speed grinder that can accept multiple attachments for your platens, all right? Being able to slow down, especially when you're finishing your steel, you're doing your final finish, that is gonna be so much nicer than like one of those, like my first grinder, I didn't save up and I got a Grizzly for around like 600 bucks. And once again, it was kind of a game changer because I started with a file and a hacksaw, right? But the Grizzly, I couldn't slow it down and I overheated my edge who knows how many times trying to finish the steel on that thing. So A nice variable speed grinder is gonna go a really long way, and there's so much you can do with it. So many of these companies, I use Ameribraid, they're my favorite, but they have so many different attachments that you can put on, and you can even make your own. It's not hard. So, a good grinder. All right, the next tool that I want to talk to you guys about is super simple and often overlooked as far as important tools go, but that's just a file guide, and they come in a variety of styles. The one I probably use the most is this one for integral bolster knives. Really great for cleaning up the transition between the tang and the bolster and getting everything nice and flat. They also make them for flat type knives. This one I use for like my hidden tangs and my full tangs. But another thing that's really useful about it is squaring up the front of a block of wood when you're making a hidden tang knife. I'll actually put this around the block of wood and flatten the face on my grinder, and that way I've got a nice clean surface to work from and make sure my glue joints are nice and pretty. All right, so the next piece of equipment that I think is imperative if you want to do this more seriously and more professionally is you should get a heat treat oven. This is one of the more expensive tools, but a good heat treat oven is gonna really ensure that you're getting a quality heat treat on your steel. I use a Gen Ken vertical air bath, and I love it because my knives just hang down in there, they're not touching anything, and there's no stress on the blade from them touching different surfaces. And I find that since I've been using that, I've fought way less warps. So a good heat treat oven is gonna go a long way. All right, next up is the angle grinder. This is a tool that is super versatile. You can do so much with it. I'll grind steel while it's hot. I'll cut steel while it's hot. Sometimes if I've got too much, I'll cut off little bits. I use a wire cup for cleaning off all of the forge scale when I'm done heat treating the knife, or if I'm doing stainless steel before I heat treat the knife so I can put on my clay to keep it from turning into a oxidized mess. All sorts of stuff. So get at least two of these things so you can have one ready to go for no matter what, but at least, well, let's say at least one. An angle grinder, you need this. Cutting your stock, whatever. This thing does so many different things. It's also the most dangerous tool that I can think of in your shop. These things are terrifying. Cut-off wheels can explode. Wear your PPE. You don't want one of these things flying into your eye. And yeah, let's just leave it at that. So the next tool that I recommend you get is a good knife vise. Something that can rotate, you can put it in a vise to hold it and move it at different angles. Something that's big enough for the knives that you're making. The one I'm using is made by Trojan Horse Forge. You can make them yourself too. It's really just a square pipe and a round pipe with some tubing and some flat pieces clamped. You know, I'd rather just pay someone to make it because there's guys out there making it. The Trojan Horse Forge is a really nice one. But a knife vise is invaluable for working on your blade, working on your handle. Just super useful, saves me a ton of time, very useful tool. The next one's probably kind of a controversial thing, but that is a nice set of sharpening stones, whether they're diamond stones or water stones or a combination. I find that you learn more about the edge of your knife and your geometry and your grinding abilities from sharpening your blades on a stone. Then it's just an extremely good learning tool. And it's also a very effective way to put an edge that forms wonderfully on your knife. A good set of sharpening stones, you're not gonna regret it. It takes a little time and effort to learn how to do it properly. But once again, like, you'll learn so much about your work by sharpening on sharpening stones that I think it's really worth the investment. They're not, you know, good ones aren't cheap, but they're not the most expensive tool on this list. So definitely invest in some sharpening stones. All right, y'all, thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Obviously, there are 1,000,001 other tools that I could have talked about in this video, but I think these are, in my opinion, like the top 10 most useful tools that you're gonna need to do this job. You know, drill press, bandsaw, those things are all super handy things you can find anywhere, and hopefully you have them if you're gonna do this, but you know, and later down the line, getting a press and or a power hammer is super useful. Post vise, I could go on and on and on and on, but like I said, those were my top 10, kind of, you need these tools to get started doing this. Let me know what you think your top 10 favorite tools are for bladesmithing, or most necessary tools are for bladesmithing. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and thanks for watching.